Welcome on in to the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah insider for KSL Sports. That's Cam Beck. That's Tyson Mall. Shout out to the listeners and to all the blockheads out there. Cam, Tyson, fellas.
It sounded like
How
you were
we doing?
signing off right there. Like we were about to have the shortest episode ever.
Oh, it kind of did.
You're just like, and shout out to all the
Little
listeners.
curveball.
We'll
had to throw you a little curveball. That's all that
I
was.
like how he's like, there's Cam and Tyson, like people can see us.
It's a visual medium.
Yeah. This is a podcast.
I still like
we
it.
deliver, visuals.
I'm just glad to be back and take a week
It's
off.
good to have you back. Missed you last week.
It is good to have you
I
back.
missed you guys too.
Where were you? Sitting and
I was
sulking in the corner after your Raiders lost to the Chargers?
Oh, stop. And then turn around and beat the Ravens somehow.
Ooh.
Not sure how that happened.
Ravens are 0-2 though, so how good of a win is that, really?
I don't know. I know. Dude, I got back from California on Saturday, and it was yesterday was like pure, like, unwind, unpack, not do anything.
Fair.
I had no desire to watch anything.
Totally fair.
And listen, they're not good.
The Raiders?
Yeah.
It's what I've been saying this whole time, man, but you always want to argue with me.
You know what? They could be worse. They're not the worst team in their division.
Shout out to Bo Picks, baby. Man, he's throwing them.
Did you see his interview this last week where they're like, can you walk us through the interception in the end zone? He's like, oh, yeah, I dropped back and threw it to the other team.
I
love it.
It's been a bad year for rookies. I think I saw a tweet that was like, and JJ McCarthy, who is out for the season with a torn ACL, is tied for the lead on
the
passing
best
touchdowns.
Yeah, dude. I don't know if you guys. So Tyson, I know you didn't. Cam, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud battle last night, Sunday Night Football. Caleb did not look good. Did not look great.
Yeah,
brutal.
I don't think it's hard to be too critical of rookies in the NFL. Like that jump is just so massive, but you'd like to see something from the number one pick,
especially that number one pick.
Very tough.
As hyped as he was. Yeah, very tough.
I think he could still. I don't think the jury's still out for sure, right? Like he still has time, but it's just like, oof. Like,
well, I mean, if
sooner,
if recent events are to be believed, he has a season and 2 games to figure it out.
You might explain.
Oh, Bryce Young. Bryce Young just got benched.
Bryce Young. Yeah, he got benched.
So he's got 1 season and 2 games into his second year to figure it out, or he gets benched for Andy Dalton.
Tough look, man. tough look. It was always CJ Stroud, though. Never a doubt.
Yeah.
Always. Well, cool. Quick rundown of the show before we get into it here. We'll recap Utah's 38-21 win over Utah State, the Battle of the Brothers. Did you guys know it was called the Battle of the Brothers rivalry?
I think I did. I just don't care.
Rivalry?
Enough.
This is one of those rivalry games that
it wasn't.
I thought was a friendly rivalry, and then like Utah State fans were just like, "Nah, we don't like you," and we're just
we hate you.
You don't? What? Yeah, what did we ever do to you?
Did you see
all those times? I guess.
Did you see the graphic that Utah football posted after the game with the Witt's truck leaving the stadium with the Hawks flying behind it, and the license plate said "Big Bro," and it said like, "Hey, thanks for the hospitality, little bro." That was good. Whoever does the graphics for like before the game and after the game is golf clap for.
They're doing a good job.
You're gonna have the cursive haters in your mention.
Oh, not those. Not those ones. I like those graphics, but that's not the ones I'm talking about.
No, I think I think they do a good job. I think like the pregame ones that have become popular of like the mascot or like the team. Yeah. What do you call them or whatever? Like, I don't know. Cause like the red-tailed hawk's not the mascot, right? Swoop's the mascot.
Yeah. Why can't we just put Swoop on there?
But I mean, like, so like what is the red-tailed hawk called for Utah? Like the team animal? Like what would you call that? I don't know.
Well, I think they chose that because it's like what, like the symbol, like this animal symbol of the Ute tribe.
Why can't we just pull an Auburn and chant "War Ready Red Red Tail Hawk.
I thought you were going to say have a live hawk, and I was going to say we tried that.
Or that too.
Tried.
And he went bye-bye.
Oh, I forgot about that. Shout out to the Red Tail Hawk out there flying somewhere.
He could come back one day.
We don't know world. He's just out there living free. Wherever you are, Red Tail Hawk.
He visits for games. He sits on the top of like the library or something during games and then flies away when the game's over.
I just love because that was somebody's idea, you know, like somebody was just like, no, this is going to be great. Everyone's going to love it.
Good idea.
This is going to, and like, they were just like, yeah, we'll do it at the spring game for the first time.
He'll fly around
practice.
He'll do come right back.
And then it didn't come back. And everyone else in the room was just like, yeah, great idea. Great idea.
Nice
pal.
job, Craig. That sounds like a Craig idea.
Now we don't have a hawk.
Yeah. We're down a hawk, Craig. I don't know why I settled on Craig.
One hawk.
Got no food. We got no jobs. Our hawks are flying away.
That's out of your paycheck, Craig.
Somebody get at us at what a hawk costs, like what we'd need to get into the hawk game.
Yeah. Can we buy hawk stock? Is that a thing?
You're stealing my segment. I'm way up on. I'm buying hawks this week.
All right. So, like I said, we're gonna recap Utah's 38-21 win over Utah State, and then we'll take a slightly bigger point of view type of segment through 3 games. What have we learned about Utah? What are we feeling good about? What are we worried about through 3 games? We'll also take a look ahead to Oklahoma State this weekend. Cam Rising, will he or won't he play? We will talk about that. And then from there, we'll take a look around the rest of the Big 12 Conference in Week 3. And just like with Utah, we have a better idea of other programs in the conference, and we'll talk about that as well. So that's the show rundown. But real quick, guys, just a random note, completely random. No inspiration behind this, but did you guys know that Utah has the number 4 red zone offense during this second Andy Ludwig tenure? So from 2019 to 2024, they have the number 4 red zone offense in all of college football. Just a friggin' neat little tidbit there.
Somebody needed to tell every Utah fan that in the second quarter of the game on Saturday, because I saw a lot of people calling for Ludwig's job in the middle of that game.
Man, I think people need to watch more college footballs.
I don't know how many times I have to tell people, I'm like, you're going to fire the best offensive coordinator you've ever had? That's your plan? That's your plan? You saw the history of Kyle Whittingham just repeatedly messing up with offensive coordinators, and you're like, let's fire the good one.
Yeah. Listen, he's not perfect, but man, he's pretty damn good. He's pretty damn good at what he's doing. All right, so let's go back to Saturday, reset the scene a little bit. Utah traveled north to Logan for their Week 3 showdown with the Aggies. And I got to say, Maverick Stadium, cool little stadium. Love the setup. Awesome. But why in the hell did they have to build it on a hill? Literally, they have an entire valley, Cache Valley. You could have put it anywhere, and you built it on the only hill in Cache Valley. There's so many stairs. You got to walk on an incline everywhere you go. It was absolute bull junk, as Coach Prime would say. Absolute bull junk. I was pissed. I was sore. I was hurting. Just too many steps, too many stairs.
I've never even been there. I've never been to the
stadium. Man,
that's a good thing.
I don't know.
I've heard good things. It's
a good stadium. I actually haven't been there since the renovations though. So like it's actually been a while for me. But how's the new press box and stuff?
Yeah, it was nice. Like so for the media, like the setup for the media isn't great. I'm not gonna complain. But like the press box and the suites and all that, it was actually pretty nice. They did a good job with that, and it's a pretty nice setup up there. And you know, all jokes aside, it is a nice stadium. It's pretty nice. A lot of food trucks. You got a lot of options. A lot of food options. A lot of space to walk around, get in and out freely. Pretty great.
I wonder what's that like?
Couldn't tell you.
Know this. Yeah.
They must not have refills there. They must be paying for refills like suckers.
Yeah, dude. But yeah, offense. Just let's get into the game, fellas. Offensively, Isaac Wilson went 20 of 33, 239, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Kai Bernard, 123 yards. Mike Mitchell, 75. Dorian Money, Brant, big contributors in the passing game. What did you guys think of Utah's offensive performance on Saturday?
I think it was admittedly frustrating, especially like early. And I think it was mostly frustrating because of what Utah State was doing in contrast. And so I think like without that stark contrast of like Utah State moving the ball very easily and like just slinging it around and, you know, watching Bryson Barnes do Bryson Barnes things, things that like, frankly, when you watch the whole game, you're just like, yeah, this is more or less what we saw from you when you were at Utah.
Yeah.
It's not like he threw for 350 and 4 touchdowns. You know what I mean? Like the guy could sling it. The guy could run around a little bit. We saw it. But I think the slow start was frustrating, but once they started clicking, like you mentioned, Utah almost had a couple more Mike Mitchell carries, and Utah maybe has 2 guys break 100 yards on the ground. Isaac Wilson, once he settled in, really played great. 9 receivers caught passes. That's a phenomenal day for the receiver group.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's really maybe an advantage that obviously you want your quarterback to have chemistry with his guys, and you want him to have a guy like having Cam have Dalton Kincaid and having Cam have guys like Brant Key. The guys he knows he can rely on are so valuable. But there's almost an advantage to not having a guy that you key in on like that, and knowing that like, and that's the thing too, is we can get a little bit more into Isaac specifically, but he wasn't just making quick throws. He wasn't just making available. He was making reads. He was going through progressions. He was moving through the pocket. Like overall, I think I was really pleased with what I saw from the offense.
A little frustrating on the slow start, but and like you could tell he was nervous. He's 18-year-old freshman. Duh, you're going to be nervous. First start. Like I was on the plane coming home from California when during the game. So I actually couldn't watch it.
Watching it on the big screen. Oh, you weren't watching it.
I didn't even get to watch it. No, because it was on CBS Sports Network.
Yeah.
So couldn't watch it. So
okay.
Tyson was just following on Twitter. He thought we lost by 30.
Yeah. Hit the pause button.
You would have thought so.
It makes absolutely no sense that CBS Sports Network is not available on Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus is the parent company of CBS. There's literally CBS Sports HQ, and 2 other CBS Sports channels, but you don't get CBS Sports Network? Makes no sense. It makes no sense.
I got stoked too because we were flying Delta, and if you're flying on a Delta flight, you use the Wi-Fi and you get like a free Paramount Plus. Like you get a stream Paramount Plus. I was like psyched. I was like, hell yeah, I get to watch the game. And then I pull up Paramount Plus, and CBS Sports Network is not on there.
Little did you know it's not available
across the plane.
Yeah.
Spirit Airlines exclusive, I think.
Yeah, right. Yes,
you gotta hover at 10,000 feet above ground to get it.
That's the problem. Is CBS Sports is only 10,000 feet and below.
Yeah,
they don't get it all
the
way
airwave.
Up there.
Yeah, the frequency it just doesn't get above 11,000 feet.
Yeah, but I was following I was just following the box score, like the GameCast on my ESPN app, and I was watching. I was like, okay, Isaac's like 1 for 3 or something for like 6 yards, and I was like, all right, yeah, it's not going to be good. And like I went to I rewatched the game today. He was 2 drop passes from being 3 for 5 for like 60 yards to start the game. Like that drop by was it Stanley?
Dijon.
Stanley had a drop, and I think Keithy had one too that hit him like
later
right
in the
hands.
game. Yeah.
That was the interception straight through Brand's hands and into the safeties.
But so he's nervous, you could tell. But I mean, after that first series or 2, he looked good, like really good. For I mean, not even just like Cam said, he wasn't just like catching snap, zeroing on a guy, throwing a slant or whatever. Like his pocket presence is stupidly good for somebody his age and like first start and everything. He was making reads. He was doing look-offs. everything. Like he's got the goods, man. Utah's some good hands going forward. And just to top off, like my favorite play might have been the 2-point conversion. Just a nice little underhand Thunderman flip to Keithy for the 2-point conversion. That was saucy for a kid to do that. That was awesome.
Too much sauce, man. Oh
yeah,
I think the slow start was bad, but I mean the rest was I thought everyone looked great. All the receivers looked good, making catches. Mike Mitchell runs hard too. I love watching him run. I want a quick shout out to my guy Luca Caldarella.
Yeah,
played like a lot of snaps, and he was everywhere he needed to be. He was making great blocks, and then he made that really good catch later in the game. I love that for him.
It's fun to see him. Fun to see him get so many snaps and a couple of catches. I think he's got 3 receptions on the season so far. Shout out to Caldarella.
Shout out to Luca.
Shout out
Luca. Caldarella's mouthful. Now that I try to say it, Caldarella. Luca, it is.
Luca.
Yeah, just Luca.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, totally understand frustration from Utah fans, especially Utah fans like going into that game thinking you're gonna score 45 points. One, you easily could have a few fewer dropped passes. And who knows what happens with those drives, especially in the first half. Like some of those balls that were dropped were past the sticks. Guys just needed to hang on to them and, extend drives. Maybe you keep Utah State from scoring a second touchdown in the first half. Maybe you get a third touchdown of your own in the first half. I think that the offense was better than we could have expected, really, quite frankly, with, again, Isaac's first start, his third and fourth quarters of college football. Really, really phenomenal stuff. He was clearly very excited, sailing passes at first. Like that.
There was some juice. There was some added juice on those.
Yeah. He owes money a tank of gas or something. Like he's got to fill up that truck for money, like for that touchdown catch, because money had to go get it. And like, thank goodness he did. But really that is just the clearest sign of like, he's just not settled. He's not settled in, just sailing balls. And like, not so bad though that he's missing guys, like guys can still get their hands on it. The most frustrating part to me was it was very clear that the receivers were dropping these passes because they weren't prepared for the zip that he was putting on the ball. And like, say what you want about like just the different styles of throwing from like between the two quarterbacks, but like it looked on TV and in replays like they just couldn't get their hands up fast enough, which like one, Isaac needs to put a little touch on it for sure. But two, like receivers, that is your job. Like you need to catch hard thrown balls. And like they'll get there, they'll warm up to Isaac, they'll get more time with him, like they'll get more comfortable. But
I think too with that, I think too with that is sometimes it's not always just the velocity. Like I'm sure the guys are plenty used to the velocity that Isaac throws to after a week of practice, but sometimes you get a little sped up, right? And we're talking about split second differences here, and I think that is also what they're used to having. The timing and the pace at which they run their route, turn and catch the ball, that split second difference can also make an impact in terms of their ability to get hands on passes. So I do think again, and that just speaks again to the nerves, to the adrenaline and the juice that Isaac was probably feeling. So maybe it wasn't all velocity, maybe it was just a hair quicker on the decision, on the throw, and that's.
But buddy, I don't want to say too much actually. I want to because I'm gonna come back to this.
Okay.
When we have our later segments, but I think realistically, if Cam plays that game, maybe you get another touchdown, maybe you get 2 additional touchdowns. Like, but
maybe it plays out a little different.
Yeah,
how you get there. Yeah,
I think maybe the running game's open a little bit earlier because Utah State's not just bringing the house on like first and second down like they were in that first and like especially in that first quarter, that first series. They smelled blood immediately and they were going for it. And like credit to them, it worked out great. And that's the same thing I would have done. And but once Isaac got settled, and once the run game was able to open back up, like I think it, and I wrote about this for Utah Blockcast this weekend. I think it showed that this offense is not dependent on its starting quarterback.
Yeah.
It has options.
And that is I think a huge thing to emphasize here is because it genuinely felt, when Rising went down, it genuinely felt like, oh man, everything hinges on Cam this season. But as we got away from the game, from that Baylor game, and away from the injury, having Isaac perform the way that he did really, I think, just emphasizes that point of just, look, you've got a good quarterback, you've got a good backup, and this team is good beyond just Cam. There is more here than just Cam. And so I think that that's a great point. And with the offense, I do feel like there was a little bit of a feeling out process, and maybe it took too long to actually fill out. And maybe, we all wish that Utah just kind of came out and dictated the terms from the get-go. But I think, there was probably a little bit of curiosity in seeing how Utah State would actually play things. But we saw the adjustments immediately in that second quarter, right? You saw the backside pursuit crashing down on the run game, taking away the run from the backside. And what did we see in that second quarter moving on was that little RPO action, right? The little flare screen to a Mekhi Pittman or to a Dorian Singer on the quick out. We saw that, and that was a counter, with the offense, with the play calling, and it opened things up. It forced Utah State to respect that space and to respect that backside, to hold it. And it opened up the run game later on, and I think that was a key moment. And so with Isaac, right, started out 4 of 9, 35 yards, but we really saw him settle in, as you guys talked about. The touchdown to Money Parks was so awesome because you saw him, he takes his snap, takes his steps, pump fakes to the right, and I don't know if you guys could see it on the TV view, but literally the linebacker and safety behind him both jumped the pump fake, and it opened up the space for Money. He was wide open. You guys saw that, I'm sure, on the TV view.
Yeah,
but
you couldn't see it on that, but you could see how wide open he was.
Yeah, and just that little pump fake, it opened up, and that's such a veteran move, right? You hear that so much when you're watching the NFL. It's just, oh, he's holding the safety, he's creating space, and all this. That's my John Madden voice. He's creating space. But no, you saw that with Isaac, and you saw it a couple times. You saw him start out one side and come back to the backside to make throws. We saw that a couple times. We saw, I loved watching him work the pocket. Right, he was able to navigate when there was pressures. On most occasions, he was sacked and had to escape, but he was able to navigate a couple times. There was the throw to Brant Keithy in the end zone that was broken up, but you saw him. He avoided the pressure and was able to get a throw off. Needs to drive that throw a little bit more into Brant, but we saw those things, and the throw. He loves that corner route, man. He loves that corner route. Threw it a couple times in that game, and that was the play that actually there was an opportunity for him in that Baylor game. Same play, Dorian pushing vertical, Money to the corner, and that to make that leap in a week, that speaks to, okay, he's learning, he's progressing, and I think that is a really encouraging sign that he's able to say, hey, I missed it this week. I'm going to study. I'm going to be prepared for it. I'm going to know what I need to read and the throw I need to make, and the throw that oh man, just perfect. The touch, the arc, the velocity to push it. Like, that's a throw that's still traveling 25, 30 yards through the air. Like, it's impressive. And to fit it into the honey hole like that between the corner and the safety, chef's kiss, man. Whew. Perfect.
He did it twice too.
Did it twice,
like perfectly. Both front DBs. Got up pretty dang high, and it still cleared their fingertips by a couple inches and just dropped right into Dorian and Money's hands. I could watch those throws all day. And Steve, you talked about the pass that got broken up in the end zone to Keithy. That was that throw, and he had a couple other ones that speak to just how talented Isaac can be, because his hips were left, and he just set his back foot and got him around enough, and he has the arm strength to throw away from his body. he was doing that a lot. Like he's
off
good
platform,
enough
baby.
yeah, he's good enough. He's got those throws because he's gonna have those a lot. Like if you can make those kind of throws, like those are like, like Dylan Raiola throws or Mahomes, like those kind of like off platform throws that you have to make to be like that, like elite quarterback. And he's already making those as an 18-year-old freshman in his first start. Like that's insane.
We were saying in the Discord when that throw happened, like that's just not a throw Cam has in his bag.
No,
like it's just like, again, Cam Rising, great quarterback, still Utah's like unquestioned starter, but he just doesn't have that kind of throw. He's not making that throw. He's not leaving his hips open and making that throw going against his momentum, and putting it in that placement. Like he's just, Cam throws that ball, it's going 12 yards. Like, and Isaac put it 20 yards.
I think you could push it a little bit further than that.
Sure, maybe further than that. But I'll tell you this: the DB gets there if Cam makes that throw. You know what I mean? Like, and Isaac snuck it in and like almost damn near got the completion out of it. But like, it's just one of those things. Watching him sling the ball, and you're just like, oh, this is different. Like this is noticeably different with the ball coming out of his hands, the things he can do with his arm. Like you understand where it's just like, again, all these questions about like what happened to Brandon Rose? Where's Brandon Rose? I'm like, that's what happened to Brandon Rose. It's throws like that.
Yes, this. And and I think, man, he just looked natural. It just looked easy to him, right? Like this is not something new. He wasn't frazzled. He wasn't, he was obviously juiced up to start the game, but he never looked like he didn't belong at that position, right? Like everything just kind of came naturally to him. He understood how to go through progressions. He understood how to reset his feet, how to make the different throws. It all just looked natural to him. And I think that is super exciting when you're talking about just having a true quarterback, to back up Cam. This is, man, it's a pretty sweet setup for Utah right now with Cam and Isaac at QB2.
Yeah, say what you want about the Wilsons, but they are not lacking in confidence, any of them.
No. And and Isaac, like he's pretty humble kid. Like he's still pretty humble and he's doing a good job, man.
But like even Tyson said, that underhand shovel pass at the goal line, like that is just dripping with swag. Like you can't make that kind of throw unless like you can't make even just the motion he made to throw that underhand scoop. Like you just don't do that unless you've got some sauce that you can put on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not doing that. I'm like two hand just shoving that over to Brant. Like, here, you take this.
Pass.
Take it.
Yeah. Just absolutely, I don't know. And when he settled in and started making those throws, it's just like, give that kid 3-4 more, like, God forbid this season, because obviously we want Cam healthy and playing, but like give him 3 or 4 more starts under his belt, and
look out.
He's going to be a problem.
Well, and too, like this isn't all Isaac. Like I think this speaks to what Utah has at the skill positions, right? The having Dorian and having Money, and then having Brent, like having those 3 as your top 3 options, and then you've got all these other guys that you can work in that give you these advantageous opportunities with the tight end position, right? You've got Caleb Lohner, who is just going to be a touchdown machine this season. You've got Carson Ryan, who is talented at tight end, almost equally as talented. He's just not 6'7" like Caleb Lohner is. But then you've got these other guys that are going to be working into the mix with, Mekhi Pittman and all of these other guys. Damian Alford, eventually we'll see him. He'll get going and all that stuff. But you just have so many options for these quarterbacks. And I think that was really good to actually see them utilized in the amount that they were against Utah State. And I think it's exciting to think of what that will continue to look like with Cam getting back in there and knowing the trust that the coaches have on with him and the offense. Like it's super exciting to think about from that perspective, is that you saw what Dorian can bring, you saw what Money is, what he does, and Brant, and you just it really was a good glimpse at what this offense can be this season.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the defense a little bit.
Oh yeah, we need to. Yeah, for sure.
I am curious. I want to pose a question to the two of you. Are you? I guess I'll give you three options. Are you more concerned about what you saw Utah State do in the air, what you saw them do on the ground, or are you not concerned?
Tyson, go ahead.
Oh man. Yeah, that's tough. I'd probably be more concerned with what they did on the ground. Because I mean, there were a good chunk, I would say probably, yeah, man, like 80 yards in the air through the air for Utah State were like
circus catches,
Utah
man.
could have done. Yeah, like that catch that
Bryson
Royals
falling
had
and throwing it.
Yeah,
dudes
like
catching balls on their
face.
shoulder when a DB's draped
Prayer
on
was
them, or
answered.
Yeah.
or dudes catching the ball with one hand at their knee level. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, if they're gonna catch those,
yeah,
Just
like
tip of the cap and move on.
most of
Yeah.
those, like I think a lot of that, and there were a couple that I was like a little like iffy on, like the touchdown that Gilman kind of busted coverage on, like he just let the tight end run right past him. Obviously that's a little concerning, but that's stuff you fix in film. Like, hey, he's a really good player, he'll be fine. I'd probably say I was more concerned with the run. And more specifically, and this could be more of a game plan thing. The two things that I like were jumping out at me were the D ends losing contain. You know who Bryson Barnes is. You know he can scoot a little bit. Why is he getting outside of D ends and running and I think one play, Simote Peppa was the contain guy.
Yeah.
They
rotated. They rotated the line. It's just
okay.
What was that?
This is
sometimes
this is less than ideal.
Positions, it happens.
Yeah.
You're trying stuff against Utah State.
But to your point, Tyson, like it wasn't just the defensive ends. Like they had the safeties up on the line and they were crashing down, and that too. Like it's the defensive end, like they're taught, squeeze down, take away the inside run.
A lot of those, yeah.
And the safety, right? So the safety coming down pretty hard and biting on that fake, that's pretty concerning. I'm with you, Tyson.
Mm-hmm.
More concerned with the run game because it's more repeatable than what Bryson Barnes was doing with some of those throws and some of those catches, right? Mm-hmm. Like with Rasul Faison, he's a talented back.
He's good.
He's good. He is very good. But Ollie Gordon is the Doak Walker Award winner, and you got him this week. And, so that's going to be interesting. So, Utah State attacked the edges, and they were able to, I think I added it up, 20 rushes outside the tackle compared to 5 rushes inside between the tackles. And I think, you're encouraged by what Keanu Tanavasa, Junior Shifuna were doing. They were getting knocked back, and they were controlling
sacks,
the interior.
Man.
Yeah,
that is
there's
nothing better watching a defensive tackle get sacks.
Love
that
it.
is, especially knowing that that's not usually what Utah's trying to do. But they're dominating those centers and guards so much that they're still getting to the quarterback. Just
love it. And so, now teams know, okay, we can attack the edge, right? We can get to the edge on this team and we'll test them. And so I think, how much of this was the game plan that they came into with some of the things that they were doing. And part of me also wonders, right? So Georgia struggled with Kentucky, right? This weekend, how much of that is just Kirby wanting to get the guys to buy in a little more. Hey, you guys weren't great this week. We need to really get after it this week. How much how much of that do we give credence here for Utah in the sense of, hey, you let Rasul Faison run for over 100 yards and we've got the Doak Walker Award. Everybody is on your best this week. I would put a little stock into that.
I'm glad you said that because especially speaking of Bryson's runs, Utah was crashing so hard for the running back.
So hard.
It felt like a coached decision. Like it felt like no, you are crashing for every handoff. You're not like, there is no contain. Like these are crash calls. And because Utah is usually not, frankly, that poor in contain, and certainly not over and over and over. Like I almost got the impression that it was just like, if Bryson Barnes beats us, we will, like, so be it. That they were just like, let him.
He is inevitable. What are you gonna do?
But one of those that it's just like, you absolutely cannot, because again, going into this next week, going into Oklahoma State, Alan Bowman's not going to do that to you. No. Like he's just like, let Alan Bowman break contain. Like they want to do that. Just be my guest. And so it's just like, you're gonna be crashing against Oklahoma State. So like, I don't know, get used to it. If you're gonna let this Faison, if you're gonna let Faison run for 100 yards, get this practice in, because when it comes to Ollie Gordon, you're crashing every play. When we go to Stillwater.
Oh yeah, yep. So I do wonder how much of that will be a thing. So very curious to see the run defense. And look, like Utah knows, Ollie Gordon is top running back in the country. They know they're going to have to bring their absolute best. And I think,
not according to his stats the last 2 games, but
I don't
know. You know who has more yards per carry than Gordon in the past 2 games? Faison.
Bernard. Oh,
Rashul Faison.
But like, I think Ollie Gordon's getting, like, listen, he's a fantastic running back. There's no question about it. But like, I don't know what, because it's not that he's not playing. Like, I don't know if he's like, I truly don't know if maybe he's like a little bit banged up or something. But I think the last 2 games he's getting like 17, 19 carries, and he's ended up with 50, 45, 55 yards. It's and maybe it's just that defenses are saying, like, beat us with anybody but Ollie Gordon. But like, you got to think Utah's going to do the same thing.
Could be. They will.
Very well could be. So overall, solid defensive performance. I think we all agree, right? Obviously, slow start. Understand that there was some cuteness with the game plan. Once they got back to what they do best, they kind of settled in, controlled things. So maybe not the easiest, maybe not the most comfortable we've ever felt about the defense.
Yeah.
But I is that fair to say, fellas, that we're comfortable with what we saw?
I'd like to be more comfortable, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
You're not uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I was a little bit, I'll be honest, I was the opposite of you two. I was more concerned with the passing game. And it's not just, obviously guys were making catches and guys were making plays, but guys are going to do that in games you play. And like, the reason guys can make plays is because you're giving them cushion and you're letting guys get open. And I think that was the thing that concerned me the most, is the number of plays where it seemed like a Utah State player had a step or 2 on a Utah player and were like, actually got behind the defense. And those are the things where I'm like, okay, you can give up some yardage in front of you. You can give up passing plays underneath or something. Like you can let running backs get, and you can still control a game defensively. But if you're letting guys over the top, that's how games get out of hand and hurry. Like, you play a team like Oklahoma State and you let guys over the top 3 times against you, that's 3 touchdowns. Like, they will score on those plays. And it's
that's
like, you're not gonna be able to come back quite as easy in Stillwater as you can in Logan. And anyway, that's I am curious to see if the coverage shores up a little bit. I that said, I did like a lot once they settled in, once they kind of I don't know, I didn't see it, or don't know well enough to see like if how much coverage or anything changed, but once the secondary started like kind of taking away that cushion, the interceptions, the playmate, like Teo's hit, can we maybe talk about for a second?
Good God.
Ooh, buddy.
I mean, absolute hospital ball from Bryson, but like I don't know that, like, he spun that guy in the air. Like,
yeah,
the guy did a rotation and a half in the air on his
full
way
lux,
down.
triple lux.
It was bad. I
felt so bad that it was Kyrie's too.
Yeah, had to be Kyrie's.
Had to be him. And he's also the one that Snowden just completely pickpocketed him for an interception in the end zone too. I just felt bad. It was, I just felt bad. It was Kyrie's.
That Snowden pick was pretty crazy too. Like the ball skills,
unreal, man.
The best part was watching it on TV. The best part was watching it on TV too, because like you don't see it happen, and all you see is every Utah State fan on the bottom of the screen like immediately get up and start cheering, and then Smith just turns around, he has the ball in his hand, and and everyone just go like arms go from up to just like down, like what just happened?
There was a conglomerate of fans in the opposite end zone of Utah fans, and I talked to a number of them, and they all thought that it was a touchdown for Utah State. The play happened right in front of us in the press box, and we saw Snowden. They hit the ground. He rolls over, and he just has the football, and he just pops up. It was incredible. Like, so everybody was thinking it was a touchdown in the stadium, and then just Smith was just like, "Hey, here it is. I got it."
Yeah.
Just an incredible play, man. It was remarkable. Love the Cam Calhoun interception as well for a different reason, because it was picture perfect catch man technique. He's off man, disrupts him about 7 yards, I think, 5-7 yards, plays trail, catches up, just eyeing the ball the whole time. Yeah, dude, it was pretty.
A great ball too. Like, and like you said, perfect coverage in the sense of like playing off that outside hip, timing the ball, waiting for it to be where he can just step in front and casually take it. Like it was,
loved it.
It looked so easy.
Loved it. All right. So before we turn the page to the Big 12 and the rest of the conference, we're now 3 games in. Just what have we learned about Utah that we didn't know coming into the season?
I think that not that we didn't know it, but maybe to help confirm that this offense is as deep at every skill position as we had hoped. That running back is, I mean, all due respect to Jalen Glover, he can't get on the field. And he was the number 2 guy last year. And just like, you look how we're running tight ends out like they're falling off of trees, and they're all contributing. We have more receivers who can play any down and can make big plays than they've ever had. And now you've got confidence that even at quarterback, you can be too deep and not lose much of a step. I think like as well as the offensive line is playing, and like minus a few plays again, I think they played a really good game. Isaac had a ton of time on most of his plays. Like when he had time to make those reads and make those progressions.
Yeah.
I think we've learned that this offense can be as good as we were hoping it could be. There's still some things we want and need to see, obviously. Like it was great seeing Dorian Singer get more involved in this game, and some of the things that he did, like just little things like catching the ball on the sideline and stopping and going upfield. Little things like that where it's
trying to create as many yards as you can after the catch, regardless of how many you actually get. Yes.
Right. It's
love
like
that.
In reality, he only picks up an extra 1 yard, but it's just like, but that guy misses a tackle and he's running. He's going. Yeah. Because he doesn't just let himself drift out of bounds. He's hungry for those extra yards.
Yeah.
He's hungry for those touchdown opportunities. It's not about a catch. It's about getting in the end zone. Like little things like that, where it's just like not used to seeing those things out of Utah receivers. And anyway, that's my biggest takeaway through 3 games is like this offense has the juice. They just just need to have those opportunities. And a couple of things I will say I've missed that I don't feel like we've seen yet. Haven't really seen a connection over the top, other than like there was the Brant touchdown where he leaked out and Cam threw him the easy ball, but no like just set drop back passes and make a throw over the top of a guy and and make a big play downfield. Everything's been kind of underneath stuff, and so that's the one thing I'll be looking for these next couple of weeks is like can Utah attack the ball and like really go over the top of defenses and make big passing plays.
Yeah. So the big thing for me, and this is something like obviously I didn't learn this, but I think we just realized like you don't win games in the first quarter. When you look at how these first quarters have played out, each one of them has been a little different, right? So Southern Utah, just super slow quarter. I think Utah only had 1 possession, maybe 2, in that first quarter against SUU. 7 points. And you're just like, man, what in the world? And then the first quarter against Baylor, you put up 17 and you're like, oh man, we're going to score 84 or something today. It's going to be great. And that game completely turned on its head, right? And then this past week, again, another slow start, but the offense settled in, got going. And I just think it's so important, right? It's a 4-quarter game. You got to get into these games and really allow these games to play out before we start jumping down the throats, before we start overreacting. And I know I'm speaking to a wall here, but you don't win games in the first quarter. Like, let's just remember that, keep that in mind.
Well, or in any single quarter, right? Like, and not in the same way. Like, there is no formula to winning games as a Utah football team. Like, yeah, the defense didn't look lights out on Saturday against Utah State. You know what? They didn't have to. And that's fine sometimes. Like, it's you don't need to always be like defense 100% of the pressure on you all the time, every game. It's just like, no, you know what? Some games, frankly, for lack of a better term, you're going to ease off the gas a little bit because you can, or because you need to give your guys a little bit of just mental breathing room. And I think this was also one of those games where Morgan knew, like, hey, my defense doesn't have to have an A+ game to win. We don't have to hold these guys to, we don't have to be forcing 3 and outs on every drive. Like, let's save those games for when we absolutely need them. Save those plays and those game plans, that scheme, for when we absolutely need it. Utah State, let's just go out and play ball and see what we can do. And if the offense does enough, your defense doesn't have to be lights out. And I think, then you have games like Baylor where you have the opposite. It's just like, hey, defense, this is on you now.
It's on us.
Like, we need everything from you in the second half of this game. And they flipped the switch, and they did. And this Utah team can do it to you in a number of ways.
And I think like that's been really good to see. And so just last thing, Tyson, and then then the mic is yours. But have really enjoyed seeing some of these guys emerge. Keanu Tanavasa, I was optimistic he was going to become a playmaker, but the level at which he has risen to is unbelievable, right? Not just in terms of what he's doing on the field with his production, like he's producing at a really good level. I think he's got a couple sacks, a number of pressures. He is disrupting things from the interior of the defensive line. It's been really fun to watch him, but more so what he's done as a leader. Like, you watch some of those Utah videos that they put out, the one that they put out today, and it's like, this guy, how can you not love this guy? This guy is incredible. And, we're lucky because Keanu gets to join me on the podcast, and we get to have those more interactions with him, and that's fun to have that. But he has genuinely risen to a really special level, and he's playing at just a high level of ball, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And beyond him, right, you're seeing Ateo Johnson also take those steps, and he's showing flashes. You're seeing these other guys, Mike Mitchell, Mekhi Bernard elevating his game, back-to-back 100-yard games. He's making the knockout blow in those fourth quarters. It's fun to see these guys stepping up and emerging, and that's been fun to see.
If the Blockcast to NFL draft pipeline becomes a thing, you're gonna have guys lining up to be on this.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh yeah, dude. We're 1 for 1 so far. Got to keep it going. Got to keep it perfect. Tyson, what have you learned?
I agree with everything you guys said, but one thing I want to go back to that we talked about before the Southern Utah game was I think finally seeing the offensive line gel and do what they're supposed to. I mean, there were a few plays on Saturday where you don't like seeing a tackle in the backfield and seeing offensive linemen facing backwards and looking at the play. Those are never fun. When there were it was 1 or 2 of those, but there were a lot of plays where especially on runs where you had guys pulling, you had guys, and it looked like a mishmash, or everyone was kind of running different directions. And then all of a sudden there was a hole. You had guys coming around, sealing blocks. You had guys kicking out. There were just everything that happened all at once. And then boom, there was a 6-foot hole that Mike Mitchell was sprinting through. They were coming off blocks. They were double teaming well. They were picking up blitz as well. So that, from what I wanted to see against against Southern Utah, is exactly what we saw against Utah State. Is we saw the offensive line do their assignments, make the blocks they were supposed to, and like we said, a slow start. They needed to wake up a little bit, but halfway through the first quarter, end of the first quarter, when they woke up, they were absolutely bulldozing.
Yeah.
Utah State's, defensive line and linebackers. It was great.
Well, and to your point, Tyson, like the run blocking has been fun because they've added these different run plays with the counter and the trap, and we didn't see those last year because Utah just couldn't execute them because it's hard to execute those plays when you've got 8 and 9 man boxes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's been fun to watch that. But I think what's really exciting is like the offensive line with Caleb Lomu and Spencer Fano at tackle is, pressure isn't as big a deal. Defense is pressuring the quarterback, Cam Rising, Isaac Wilson. Like it's not these guys are pass protecting at a really good level and really doing a good job. I think they have only a few pressures between the two of them. Obviously, Spencer struggled that first game, but he's really settled in the last 2 games, done a great job. He didn't allow a single pressure against Utah State. Caleb Lomu has done a good job on the left side. And so, that's really encouraging is now, the struggles that have plagued the offensive line over the last couple of years was always the athleticism off the edge.
Oh, and man, I was watching Caleb Lomu on passing downs when like that. He's such a smooth kickback. Like he moves so fluidly for how big he is.
To watch, man.
Yeah, it was great. Like it's the first game I actually started kind of like focusing on him on a few of the pass plays, and the way he moves is really exciting.
For sure. All right, welcome on back in. Welcome back in to the Utah Blockcast after that
on back.
Commercial break. Welcome back to the Utah Blockcast. I need to work on that.
Leave. They listened to that great sponsor message. Is what
that's
they did.
True. That's true.
They're going to consider that product and add it to their add to the
shopping list or whatever it's for.
But it's some really quality products that we're pumping. All right, so Big 12. Let's start with Oklahoma State for obvious reasons, right? Utah this weekend traveling to Stillwater and taking on Oklahoma State. We'll talk about that, but let's take a look back. Oklahoma State this past weekend. What did they end up? They played Oklahoma State, or they played Tulsa. They won 45-10. So they improved to 3-0.
Another in-state, probably not so much a rivalry. I don't know. I'd have to.
You never know.
It might be as much of a rivalry as.
Is that the Battle of the Cousins? Maybe.
It's probably fair to say that Utah State's beat Utah more times than Tulsa's beat Oklahoma State. Now that I say that,
probably.
I would be curious. I'll look that up. Actually,
I'll look that up while you're doing your thing.
So Alan Bowman, 24 of 31, 396 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception in the game. Ollie Gordon, 17 carries, 41 yards.
Is that what you want?
Wow. Yeesh. That's something. 45 points though. It's a big number. We like points. So
they're fine.
They're fine.
Take or leave them.
Fine.
Wow, I should not have. You know what? I'm sorry, Tulsa. I was not familiar with your game. They have beaten Oklahoma State 28 times.
Wow. How many times have they played?
It's 45, 28, and 5 for Oklahoma State.
Wow.
That's
respectable, Tulsa. Okay.
Yeah,
respect.
Good for you, Tulsa. I mean, they haven't won since 1998, but that's fine.
Oh,
yeah.
There it is.
Wow.
But in 1964, they won 61-14.
Boom. Putting it on them.
And in 1943, they won 55-6. So take that, Oklahoma State.
Gave them the business in 1946. That's not what we call it. But anyways.
It was 43, but
43.
Those wartime games. Those wartime games all obviously count as much as all the others.
All the same. So Oklahoma State through 3 games. What do we make of the Cowboys?
I am reluctant to go too hard, to go too heavy in on them, mostly because all of the data says that they're a pretty good football team. SB Plus has them as Utah at like 12, I want to say, and Oklahoma State at 16. But since they have the home field advantage, they have them beating Utah by 0.3 points in the matchup on Saturday. About as close as you can get it. Like, it literally shows like the predicted score is like 24-24 or something in the model that they have. Like, it's dead on. It's as much of a toss up as it can predict. But when I look at the eye test, when I look at, again, I'm defensive biased as a Utah fan. I can't help it. It's Kyle Whittingham's fault. That defense does not scare me. And especially with the offense that Utah has, they're in pretty much any statistical category you can think of defensively. They are ranked 100th or worse. It's very like pass yards allowed, rushing yards allowed, red zone like stuff allowed. Like the game I keep coming back to, and I know it's one game. Utah didn't look great that week against Baylor for obvious reasons, I think, with Cam going out. And again, just the oxygen being sucked out of Salt Lake City when that happened. But Oklahoma State had no business beating Arkansas. They needed a lot of luck to beat a bottom third SEC team. And that's what's standing out to me is like, if Utah gets 650 yards against Oklahoma State, it's done. They're just not going to let Oklahoma State hang around even in Stillwater. Like, not to say that Utah will have that kind of success necessarily, but if they do, if this defense is going to allow good teams to do that type of stuff to them, Utah's defense is just too good. And so like it is in Stillwater. It's a very hard place to play. They are a good team. Their offense is good and can score a lot of points, but I'm feeling pretty good going into this game.
Yeah, I think that someone also pointed out that like they're in between the 20s, their defense is really bad, but they're actually pretty good in the red zone. But then you bump up against Utah with Andy Ludwig and having what was it? Most successful red zone, like the
number four red zone offense, the number 4 red zone offense under Andy Ludwig,
and that's
since 2019.
Does that include this year?
That includes this year.
I was gonna say, like, because then you got
last year.
Now you got a 6'7", 250-pound tight end who used to be a basketball player who can jump out of 40 inches.
What if you exclude last year?
Ooh.
They are number 1 if you exclude last year.
Yes. Is that real? Are you saying for certain?
Yes. I can screenshot the stat. Yes. They are number 1. If you take away 2023 and the debauchery that it was, the disaster, the absolute mayhem that we experienced last year on the offense side of the ball, if you take that away between 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2024, Utah has the number 1 red zone offense in the country.
It's good.
Wow.
It's pretty good.
Love to see it.
You don't want to be.
It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe, but you love to see it.
You got strength to get strength. You got Cam back, and then you got a defense that gives up a ton of yards in between the 20s. Like, again, if they can, there's two people scare me. Two players scare me on Oklahoma State, and it's Ollie Gordon. That's a given. I don't care if his stats aren't all that great this year. He still won the Doak Walker last year. He's still that same player. I think we don't know yet. Or the other guy is Stribling.
DeJon Stribling? Yeah. He scares you?
A little bit.
All right. Former Washington State product.
And not necessarily like just like that he's going to win the matchups. It's just that I don't know how he just finds those little stupid little open creases
he's
and
good.
All of a sudden he's gone.
He is good.
Bowman doesn't scare me.
And that's Oklahoma State's game too, right?
Yeah.
Like, get guys in space, let them make plays. And
yeah,
I think that goes back to kind of what I was saying about my concerns with the secondary is like letting guys find space and letting guys get that separation, whether it's in front or behind you. Obviously getting behind you is a bigger concern, but But yeah, like this team has athletes, and if you let guys catch the ball in the middle of the field, they're going to clear you out. And if you let somebody catch it there in the middle of the field, they're going to have a long way to run.
So this is by design with Oklahoma State and their defense, right? They're playing a lot of guys in coverage because this has been the Big 12's MO is the big play offense, right? When you play Oklahoma and you play Texas and you play Texas Tech and you have these offenses that are trying to throw the ball down the field all the time, you're going to keep defenders in space. And that's what Oklahoma State's defense is. They've got 3 big bodies down front. They've got 3 down linemen, 2 backers, and then they've got 6 defensive backs. And so they're playing keep everything in front of us. And then once we get into the red zone where space is condensed and you don't have as much space to operate in, it's going to get tough. And that's been the formula for them. So yes, they're giving up 467 yards of offense, but they're only giving up 20 points per game so far this season. And that's with the Arkansas game. And you look at their history, that's been pretty consistent over the years, is big numbers, big yardage totals. But when it comes to the scoreboard, they're actually pretty efficient at minimizing the amount of points that they give up. So it's risky, but it's been effective under Mike Gundy over there with that defensive mindset. So and that red zone, the red zone stuff is going to be the absolute key in this game for Utah, is capitalizing when you move the ball down the field, getting into the red zone, capitalizing and punching it into the end zone. That's going to be the big key for Utah this one.
The most valuable player, obviously aside from like a quarterback, the most valuable player in modern football in those situations is tight end, and Utah's swimming in them. And so I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah.
I think
like at some point it's pick your poison.
Yeah.
You've got 3 of them that have caught touchdowns so far.
And yeah, and 3 more who are perfectly capable. It's capable. Not that those are the 3. I think that I feel good about Utah's chances of being able to take advantage of that situation where other teams haven't been able to. But I will also say that, like, I think it's easy to kind of criticize that defensive mentality too, of like, it is risky, that bend and not break, like let people get into the red zone and then what happens. That's not unlike what Morgan Scalley has done in a lot of games. Like they play that same game all the time. When they play teams who can beat you over the top, they're happy to give you yards until the red zone. And then they'll say, now you gotta play in front of us. And this is what we're good at. And so it's not a bad strategy. It does have some risk. But if you've got guys, especially guys who can tackle, guys who can be physical with receivers on the outside, it works. We've seen Utah do it really well for years. And so I think the difference is, I don't know that everybody that Oklahoma State's playing has a Brant Kuithe or has a Carson Ryan, and certainly not a Caleb Lohner. And so, like, I think those guys could be huge factors in making sure drives in touchdowns.
Very, very good point is having those guys, and with Utah defensively, really excited. I shouldn't say excited, but really interested in this matchup with, as we talked about, Ollie Gordon, Alan Bowman, Dejon Stribling, as Tyson brought him up. This offense, they've got playmakers. They've got guys that they can spread the ball with. This is going to be a tough test for the defense too. And you know, this Oklahoma State offense, it's versatile. They can go shotgun. They can go under center. And with Ollie Gordon, they're going to have plenty of options in terms of the run plays because he can do it all. He can run to the outside. He can run with pace where you've got these counter and powder run plays where you need to allow blocks to sit up. He can hit the hole hard if he needs to on these quick traps and inside zones and all of these duos. He can run every single run play in the playbook. And that's not something that every running back can do. Like it's unique. So he's a special talent. Utah's going to have to be prepared for a variety of looks. And perhaps that's something that we haven't seen from Oklahoma State this season. I haven't watched all 180 minutes of Oklahoma State this season, I'll be honest. But they are a heavy inside zone team. And, you know, when you got a running back like that, you're going to have those other plays in the playbook to maximize what he can do. So that's going to be something that Utah's got to be mindful of, is they have to prepare for a lot of likely different looks, option plays, counters, powers, all of that stuff, because Oklahoma State will certainly have those ready to go. So it's going to be a tough test. I'm certainly excited to see the matchup and interested in seeing how it plays out.
I'm just looking because I'm suddenly curious. Ollie Gordon is still leading for Oklahoma State in rushing. I wasn't sure if maybe, because I know the last 2 games haven't been as impressive. He did have a big first game though.
What did he run for in the first game? Like
it was over 100. I can't remember exactly what. I'm looking it up right now. It was, this is really good. This is really good podcast audio. 126 yards on 28 carries.
That's not bad.
Three touchdowns. That's the real kicker there.
I mean, if we want to get, if you want to salivate a little bit on what Utah could possibly do as well, Quinton Jackson, 24 carries, 149 yards, and 3 touchdowns against Oklahoma State's defense.
Yep.
That's a good point.
I mean, they ran for 232, average 5 yards a carry as a team.
Yeah, I mean, Gordon was their rushing leader in that game with 49 yards. Like, that would be a huge win for Utah.
Yeah.
Like if Alan Bowman beats you in the air and you lose that game because of that, like I think you live with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there. All right. Let's take a look at the rest of the Big 12, and I'll give you guys my power rankings, and we can just kind of hit on teams as I go through them. So I'll just start. Top 3, Utah, number 1, still on top. Kansas State, number 2. They've moved ahead of Oklahoma State with the win over Arizona, and it was a very impressive win. I was very impressed with Kansas State and what they did. All 2 plays, they manhandled them.
I told you, selling Arizona last week.
Yeah,
selling the hell out of Arizona. That team is Fafita and 21 other guys.
Well, T-Mac.
I mean, where is he?
Good point.
I mean, he did have 300 yards in a game.
Yeah, I mean, and then what? You know?
Well, I mean,
what have you done for me the other 2 games?
Then what? Oh my goodness. So Kansas State 31-7 over Arizona, dominant win. Really impressive. T-Mac only had 11 receptions and 138 yards. Where you been, T-Mac? Where have you been, bro?
All right.
What are you doing out there?
He's had better production than any Utah receivers ever had through 3 games. That's not the point.
He's only got 453 yards and 4 touchdowns through 3 games.
Okay, so it's Noah Fafita, T-Mac, and 20
really
other guys.
slacking
Is that
out
what you
there.
want me to say?
Yeah. Just not pulling his weight down there for the Wildcats.
Man, can you imagine if we had a guy who was getting 140 yards in a game?
Oh,
We were just
man.
like, but where's he been since that first game?
Why can't he get 150 yards a game? What's the deal? What's holding him back? Ludwig not throwing the ball around enough? Jeez. So with this one, Kansas State, obviously 156. Avery Johnson, I think, was the story here. 156 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 110 yards on the ground. Really dynamic, showed that dual threat ability. Really impressed by Kansas State. Home crowd, Friday night game. That'll be interesting to see how those Friday night games play, particularly with the time zone change, with us moving forward an hour now, going east. Just, it'll be weird. Just curious to see how it plays out, how it impacts the team this year. But that's my top 3: Utah, Kansas State, Oklahoma State. We talked a lot about Oklahoma State. I assume no issues there with that.
No.
Okay. Next 3.
I'm not
4, 5,
I'm not
6.
going to defend Kansas this week. I'm going to get ahead of that right now.
Thank you. 4, 5, 6. Iowa State at number 4. Arizona State I still have at number 5. And then UCF at number 6 with the win over TCU.
Did either of you watch that game?
No, it was happened during the Utah game.
It.
But yeah, was followed along once I started seeing like, oh, UCF is coming back. That was unreal.
I wish I watched I looked at the box score and was just like, all right, TCU's got this. I'm gonna I'm gonna have a little family time again and turn off the college football briefly because every other game, like Colorado was winning by a lot, and so I was just like, I don't want to watch this. BYU was winning by a lot, didn't want to watch that either. That game didn't look that entertaining. Then I turned it on a little bit later, and I'm like, oh, it's a 1-point game with 2 minutes left.
Yeah, it was 21-7 at half in favor of TCU. They're at home. Things are working. Things are going for them. And then all of a sudden, UCF just comes storming back. They score 13 in the third quarter, 15 in the fourth quarter. It was a truly dominant fourth quarter to get 15 points on the board, limit TCU to 3 points, and they get the win, 35-34. And wow, what a game! KJ Jefferson, man, 13-22, 230 on through the air, 3 touchdowns. RJ Harvey, 180 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. That run game, man, that UCF run game, I did not anticipate them being so good on the ground, which is crazy because it's Gus Malzahn and he's always been good on the ground.
As I was just gonna say, it's Gus Malzahn, man. He turns teams into, they do crazy things on the ground and that's just enough through the air. Like that's the thing is like having Cam Newton and Gus Malzahn was just so unfair.
Yeah,
briefly, like because it's just like, all right, we're gonna do some crazy running shit for starters, and also this guy's gonna was he that? I don't even remember, but Auburn does fun stuff Auburn did fun stuff on the ground with Gus Malzahn. I figured he would do that with UCF. I still have not been that impressed with KJ Jefferson. Like that stat line is good.
Yeah.
It's not, but like that's not what scares me about that team.
Yep, it's that ground game, man. He did add 46 yards on the ground, so keep that in mind with KJ Jefferson. He's a big boy, man. What's he weighing in at now?
Gene Chizik,
247
when
pounds.
Cam Newton was at Auburn, not Gus Malzahn. So as soon as I said that, I was like, that's not right.
I thought the same thing. I was like,
but he did have a couple. He did have a couple running quarterbacks in his time there.
They weren't Cam Newton, but yeah,
there was one that was pretty dynamic, if I remember right.
Bo Picks?
No.
Oh, sorry.
No.
That guy almost won the Heisman, and he's doing just as well in the NFL, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't checked.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. So where'd I end? 4, 5, 6. Iowa State, Arizona State. Arizona State. That was a tough win. It was Thursday night game. That's tough. Going on the road, Thursday night game to Texas. Yes, it was only Texas State, but Texas State, they've got some talent in that program, man. That was a good quality win, gritty win. Kenny Dillingham, he's got that program trending in the right direction. They finished non-con 3-0. Really impressed with the Sun Devils. And that run game, man, with Cam Skattebo, that run game is looking pretty impressive. So just like UCF, that ground game is going to be everything to their success this season. So that's my top 6. Let's get to, I don't know why I did 3. There's 16 teams in this damn conference.
Why don't you do 4?
Should have said 4. So I'll catch up. I think I need to do 5 here, right?
5 apiece, yeah.
All right, let's do that. I have TCU at 7, Arizona at 8, Baylor at 9, BYU at 10, and Kansas at 11.
I'm in
fair.
Fair.
That's fair.
Yeah. BYU's defense looks pretty good.
How bad is Wyoming?
I think they're pretty bad. But
how bad is SMU?
Really bad.
I don't know. I truly don't know about SMU.
Yeah.
Like they're supposed to be good.
They're supposed to be good. Yes.
But so is Florida State,
I'm with you there.
you know?
Yep.
Like, so I don't know.
Yeah. So we'll see. And obviously like Utah, what do we like Baylor? How good is Baylor? We'll see.
Yeah.
That's what's fun. And then where did I end off? Oh, Kansas. Come on, Jayhawks. What are we doing out there?
Very tough
Absolute
look from the team that was supposed to have the best path to the Big 12. Like, my
Just
goodness,
blowing it before we even get to it.
Very tough look out of Lawrence.
Why can't?
Who are the losses? Oh yeah, Illinois and UNLV. Like,
oh, there we go.
UNLV is a good football team, though.
They are 3-0.
did you see that this is the first time they've ever been ranked? Ever.
UNLV?
Program history, yeah.
Wow.
Good for them.
Shout out to the Rebels, man.
Right?
Eat shit, Kansas.
Yeah.
How are you losing to a team that's never been ranked before?
Losers, man. Losers.
Never.
Good grief.
Not once.
Yeah, man. That Kansas team. Jalen Daniels, he's got to figure it out. He's struggling. 2 interceptions in that game. He's got, I think that makes 6 so far this season. 5. 6. He's got 6 so far. 6 interceptions for Jalen Daniels. He's dynamic, true dual threat quarterback, but he's got to get things figured out if the Jayhawks are going to have any chance this season. All right. Let's finish it up here. The bottom of the Big 12. I've got West Virginia, Colorado, Cincinnati, Texas Tech, and Houston to round out 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I had to jump Colorado back up from 15 to what I did. 13
out of Colorado State.
They did.
Colorado State. That's a bad football team.
I was hoping Colorado State was just kind of like, we're just prepping for Colorado. That's all this is. And
Right.
that was not the case at all.
I wish more teams would do that. I understand.
So do
why
I.
they don't. I understand why they don't, but I wish more teams would be like, listen, we got one game this year. And
This is it.
It's this week. Like, I don't care if we lose every other week. Like if you're Michigan in a down year, you know, and like this is an extreme example, but like if you're Michigan in a really down year, and like, aren't you just like, listen, we can go 1-11 as far as I care, but that one win,
that's
gonna be
one game. Yep.
We're gonna kneel
That's what I was
3 times
hoping.
and punt every possession until the Ohio State game.
That's what I was hoping Colorado State would do. But man, they're just a bad team.
I have a feeling that's what they tried to do. They're just,
Yeah.
just not a good football team. Do you remember like the story this offseason about their quarterback supposedly turning down a $600,000 NIL offer to some other
Yep.
school? And like I think it was
Sure,
Bud
buddy.
Elliott. I don't want to misattribute it. But somebody said on Twitter during the game, they were just like, so the reason, like if you were wondering if that story about the $600,000, or basically like the reason you know that $600,000 story was a lie is because you can watch him play football right now on NBC or on CBS, whatever it was. Like, they're just like this guy is not
Ouch.
it.
Oh man. I gotta say, big disappointment so far beyond Kansas, West Virginia. I thought they would be, and it's been tough. It's been a tough schedule. You open up with Penn State, then you got the rivalry with Pitt. But I thought West Virginia, I thought they were supposed to be good this year. That's what every West Virginia said.
They lost their
That's what they all
starting
said.
running back in the Penn State game, but I think he was back for this game. And it just, I don't know.
Pat Narduzzi, man. Pat
Yeah.
Narduzzi.
Pat Nardonzi.
Narduzzi.
Got him.
Pat Narduki with that crap that we saw.
Frickin'. Yeah. Oh man. All right, fellas. Let's put a bow on this one. And appreciate you guys. Any final thoughts before we wrap this one up? All right. Well, with that
I guess
being
I'll say,
said,
like, I think Utah wins this week, no matter who plays at quarterback, even though it'll definitely be Cam.
Yeah,
it'll definitely be Cam.
I agree.
And that's the Utah Blockcast. Signing off.